Hi, and welcome to the part 4 of extending Copilot in Dynamics 365 sales. My name is Amrik Singh, and I'm a senior solution architect with the Fast Track team for Dynamics. In this session, we'll look into how to use public knowledge sources, how to retrieve the information from the knowledge sources, and how to use the information to create or update records in Dynamics 365. Scenario. This is a sample scenario for an insurance company dealing with the trucking fleets. Here, we will be using a US dot number, which is a unique identifier issued by FMCSA or the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. When the sales team is prospecting a customer, they will visit a website, safer.fmcsa. They will search for the company information using this US dot number. They will review the information returned by the website, and then they decide if they want to create a lead. In a new solution, the seller will go to Dynamics 365. On the account form, they call a prompt. The Copilot will display the snapshot information and then also suggest if they want to create a lead record. So based on their evaluation, if the seller decides to create a lead, the Copilot will create a lead and provide the record link to the seller in the Copilot chat window. In the new solution, the seller doesn't have to go to external website and create the lead manually. So these are the solution steps. The process starts when a user types a prompt on an account form. The very first thing the Copilot will do is get the account ID. It is stored in a global variable pagecontext.pagecontext.id.grid. Once we have the account ID, in the next step, we will be calling a Power Automate flow to get the US dot number stored in the account record. Once we get the US dot number, we will be passing this information through a generative answer action to the website, and the website will return the company snapshot. And the Copilot will also display a message or a prompt to the seller if they want to create a lead. So if the seller decides to create a lead, the next step will be to extract all the required fields for the lead from the generative answer. So this is the AI prompt you can see. And after that, we will create a lead using a Power Automate flow. If the process is successful, the Copilot will display the newly created lead and a link to the end user. So this is what it looks like in Dynamics 365. You type the us.overview as a prompt in the chat window, and it will fetch all the information like legal name, drivers, power units, all the inspections, crashes, etc. It will also give you an option to create a lead. So if the seller selects yes, then it will create a new lead and give you a link to open that lead. Let's have a look at some of the important topics or components for this solution. This is our main topic, and we are using phrases as a trigger. The next action is displaying the message that we are fetching a company snapshot. Now this action is important. We are calling an action, which is a Power Automate flow, to retrieve the US dot number by passing an account ID, which is coming from this global variable out of the box. Once we have the US dot number, we are using an action, generative answers. And this is one of the most important part, because this is where we will pass the US dot number and it will return the company snapshot. So let's have a look at the properties. One of the things I'm doing here is I have selected search only selected sources. This is important. You may have a multiple knowledge sources, but in this case scenario, we want this information only from the safer.fmcsa website. You can also specify, how you want to display this information. In my case scenario, I'm saying I want to see this information as a bullet points, and also I want to make the labels bold. And here you have the field names I want to extract from the website. So you can see the legal name, physical, and a mailing address, and other information like power units, drivers, total inspections, all the crashes, etc. The other important part of these properties is under advanced, we have say board response as this global variable us.info. This is super important because we will be using this variable to extract individual fields to create a lead record. After we display this information to the user, we will be asking this question: would you like to create a lead? If the seller selects yes, we will be calling a new topic called create lead. That's it. This is a create lead topic. The very first thing you're going to notice is we are using on redirect as a trigger. You can't really initiate this topic using a phrase. And the next part is super important. Here we're calling our AI prompt. We are using an AI prompt to extract the information from the generative answer. We talk about this us.info where we're storing the generative answer. We're passing that and also passing which fields we want to extract. And then it will return us a record, which is a JSON object of all the extracted fields. And now here we're calling an action, which is a Power Automate flow. We're passing an account ID. Again, we are using a global variable to get the account ID. And also we are passing the topic.record.text, which is a JSON object. And the flow will create a lead and send back a link to a newly created lead. And that's what we are displaying back to the user. Let's have a quick look at the AI prompt. So I'm using this extract information from the text as a template. Most of the information here is coming from the template. I have made a very few changes. I think the biggest change I have made is in this for example section. So I changed the structure to make it more like a key value pair. So it's easier for me to read it as a JSON object and extract the information I want. So if you look at the inputs, there are two inputs. The first one is the data or the generative data I need to pass. And the second one is what are the specific fields I need to be extracted. So if you look at the sample data, I'll provide them a name and also give them an example what that data look like. If you test the prompt, you can see it's a very simple JSON, very much key value pair. So if you look at the output, I'm choosing JSON as an output. By default, it is text. So the recommendation is always use JSON. You can also edit the data type if you want to. So if you want some information come as a string or a number, you can change it here. I will also show you what exactly it looks like out of the box or by default, because I struggle with this part a little bit. So this is a vanilla prompt straight from the template. I haven't changed much. So I think the biggest difference here is this for example reason where you define the output. If you test this prompt, the first thing you're going to notice is, so you got this JSON string at the top. But if you look at the individual fields, they are also of type object. So if you want to get the value of a legal name, you can't just go like a key value pair. You have to go one step further. As I mentioned before, by default, the output is of type text. You want to change that to JSON because it is much more easier to parse the JSON and extract the values we want. So if you change that to JSON and test the prompt again, if you notice, there is no JSON string at the top. And another thing I would change is the example of this output data. I want to change that to a simple key value pair instead of having individual fields as an object. Other use cases, the same solution can be used for other scenarios. For example, I'm in Australia. Here we have Australian Business Register. So you can actually use the same solution to get the information about the organizations or companies from the ABR register. And similarly, in UK, you can use a company house to get the information related to the companies. On top of it, you can also use the same solution for the autonomous agents. In that case, you can update the information automatically at the background instead of displaying the information first and prompting the user if they want to create a lead. Here are some useful resources. The first three are the first three parts of extending Copilot in sales. And the last one is how to add a public website as a knowledge source. Thanks for joining the session. See you next time.